Okay, so today we are going to be going over worksite billing. There have been a lot of different changes that have taken place in the last, I would probably say, couple months. And I think that it's really important since we've been growing. We have a lot more in leadership, and we have a lot of new accounts that we've been closing. As you guys know, that the standard should be for us to be closing a worksite account every single month to ensure that we can get full house account production support, because we want to make sure that you guys are actually closing businesses, learning the system, and producing those results. And so with that, we've actually had a significant increase in worksite cases closed since the last quarter of last year, and picking up the first and going into the second quarter of 2024. So we've definitely had 2024 a year for more of closed cases. And so that has prompted me to pick worksite billing, both online and print billing, just to go over everything, including visibility of what customers see, because I know one of the biggest things is, I think that this is the one thing that I deal with the most questions, concerns, and calls on, is how to help resolve certain challenges, questions, or how to get certain billing issues fixed. And so I think that the more you all are knowledgeable on when it comes to questions or certain challenges customers may be facing, you will be able to help communicate a little bit more clearly what's going on, and then, get me involved when it comes to the getting invoices corrected and fixed as we face them. So worksite billing, let's kick it off. So this is the actual step in the worksite process that we are covering. And this is, as we all know, there are 3 periods to the work site. There's the enrollment period, there's the deduction period, and the effective period. And we know that those 3 different periods of the work site are going to be 3 different months that are consecutive. So in the example in front of me, let's say we had enrollments in February. Okay, that is enrollments in February that have taken place. We deliver deductions at the end of the month, and we have ensured that second step of verification process is deductions start the first pay period of March. So I know this is the example on the screen, and as of this month for enrollments ending in April, right now is really the crucial step of us delivering deductions for April enrollments that should have already been delivered today. So I've been getting a bunch of what comes next forms. And so this really is the step of closing an enrollment. But in the example on the screen, we have February, enrollment month, deductions start in April. They take place all of March. And then the effective date is when the effective date is also AKA invoice due date would be in April. Okay. And so bills are due on the first of the effective date or the invoice due date. So this can be for brand new cases, or this could be for re-enrollments. Okay. So this is the example on the screen. So as of April invoices, if we enrolled new accounts in February or we re-enrolled accounts in February, we're going to see either their first brand new initial invoice April, or we're going to see their updated invoice in April where they've had or made adjustments on their billing, adding any additional policies or making any changes. They'll see the new updated invoice in April. Okay. And I want you guys to see here, understanding the billing process. So bills are mailed the 22nd of each month of the deduction month. So let's say today is April 26th. Well, on April 22nd, the May invoices were generated out to the customers. If they were on print bill, if they are on web bill, they got an email from our noreply@libnat.com email address, just reminding them, hey, your invoice is due and available for you to reconcile. So, a lot of times when a customer is saying, well, not a lot of times, but by the 1st of May, because we've mailed out their invoices on the 22nd, they should have already received it by May 1st. If they haven't, then that's usually when they call us, and we kind of help give them that generated invoice if they haven't received it. Okay. But there's 3 different payment modes that businesses can be set up on. I want everybody to write this down, including directors, because this is something that I'm constantly having to answer questions on, and even from agency directors. So let's write this down. Everybody get your pens and papers out. And let's go ahead and write 3 different billing modes. 1 is web, 2 is print, and the third one is no print. Okay, so let's talk about web. Web billing just means that they are set up on and registered on online billing, and they are only getting the email notifications that their invoice is ready to be paid. So this means that they are not getting a printed invoice. It means they're only getting, and it's not they're not even getting an email, an invoice email to them. All they're getting is an email that says, hey, your May invoice is now ready to be paid and can be reconciled, clicking on this link, and it gives them the link for the online billing system. So that's web bill. The second one is print bill. This is when accounts are actually getting printed in. This is when accounts are actually getting printed invoices that are being mailed to them. They receive it in the mail. They usually cut a check and mail it off with a printed invoice. But there are a lot of invoice or accounts that like to pay online, but they still like to get a printed invoice. Okay. And in those situations, for getting a printed invoice, they can do that. If they register for online billing and they still want a printed invoice, all we have to do, all you guys actually have to do is go up under your account in Epic, go to the fee, just like you would on submitting Section 125 paperwork or changing any enrollments or updating any rosters. All you have to do on there is go to @Worksite Approval. Please change account from web bill to print billing. And they still have accessibility to pay their invoices online and get a hard copy of an invoice. Okay. But remember, when they're on web, they will not get a printed invoice. And guys, this is the biggest reason why on all Section 125 paperwork, I've gotten a couple lately, more than I have in the last couple of years. But on the Section 125, that second page, that new billing information sheet where we ask and get all the contact information for the bookkeeper, DM, payroll company, we get their billing, their payroll frequency, all that on there. I think it's question number 4 or 5. It says, do they want to be set up on online billing? Yes or no? The answer on that paperwork should always be no. Okay. We don't ever, if they want to be set up on online, that's great. We can get them set up on online. But when we send up initial paperwork, if you mark yes on that paperwork, what's going to happen is the home office is going to key the account as web, and their very first invoice is never going to come in the mail. So that's why I do push back on Section 125 whenever we have that mark yes. It should always, always, always be marked no. And I know Karen, what she does, she'll mark no, but she'll put on there, they still want access to online billing in Macon. So that, that's a good notation to be able to do, but always mark no on there. So that way they can always, that way that they can get their first initial invoice in the mail. And the last type is no print. So lately I've had to put a couple of these on no print just because there may be an issue, like vision policies they may issue late, or we're trying to get something issued in the underwriting process, and I don't want an invoice to generate yet, because if it generates, that customer is going to get an invoice and it's going to be the wrong invoice. So what we'll do sometimes is we'll put an account on no print until we get the issue resolved, either with underwriting or with our new business or worksite department. Once it gets resolved, then I put it back on print and I get them to regenerate an invoice. But no print just simply means that they're not getting an invoice at all, whether it be via email or through the mail. It will not generate one at all. Okay. Just keep in mind, agency directors, please also, whenever we get calls, hey, I haven't received an invoice, please, before you call me or send me anything like this, these are the things, and my supervisors, I also want this to go out to you guys as we go through this training. I know the initial response is, let me call Angela. Let me call her. Let me see how she can help. It's kind of like a panic because sometimes our customers do get frustrated, but I know if you guys have the proper tools given to you and I can show you how to navigate through this stuff, sometimes a lot of those calls to me can be eliminated and you can help that customer right then and there on the phone by seeing this. And so on the online billing, I'm going to show you guys, but if you do ever see where an account is on no print, that somehow is a home office error and we just need to put them on print billing and get them a corrected invoice. So I just wanted you guys to know you do have access to that, and I will show you guys here in a little bit what that would look like. Another thing about billing is that we oh, I already mentioned this, but we always want to start them with a paper bill. And then whenever they get their first invoice, we should always be scheduling time to meet with the bookkeeper to go over, make sure they don't have any questions regarding their first invoice and how to transition to online billing. Okay. Um, lastly, this is one of my biggest pet peeves is customer service. So whenever we're delivering deductions and we're concluding the enrollment for new cases and you're delivering that paperwork, I don't have it on front of me because we did WCN training 2 months ago. I'm going to do it again here shortly, probably next month. But on the work side, on the what comes next form, it says on there, if you have any questions or have any employees that come to you wanting to make changes, please have them call. And you guys are either putting your agency director's number, a supervisor's number, and then the very second number should be our office at Waycross. Okay. When you say that bullet point on the what comes next form, we need to definitely emphasize also, Mrs. Bookkeeper, if you have any questions regarding billing, please don't call our 1-800 number on the worksite line. I know it's on this blue book, but I need you to call our local office. Guys, I have so many times where customers call me or I have directors call me because they're frustrated at how home office reps handle scenarios. And so to eliminate from any of those frustrations or lack of service, or, I mean, they don't really have the knowledge that we have when it comes to being able to resolve some of this stuff. And so, our accounts, they just go open that blue book and they want to call that 1-800 number right away, or they go online to the online billing and they call that 1-800 number right away. But let's always emphasize, please call our local office first, because again, we're our local servicing agency to you guys. We're here at your disposal. We are here at your disposal. And I just want to make sure that you get that one-on-one service, and you'll get that a whole lot better dealing with our agency than calling a 1-800 number. Okay. And so that's a big, big thing for me. Let's see here. We already went over this. So accessing billing and worksite billing. So let me go over here really quickly. Hang on. So accessing online billing, the best way to do it is accessing it by clicking Worksite Billing at the top of the libertynational.com page. And so you could type in libertynational.com. You can type in libnat.com as a shortcut. And it basically, this is the old web. This is how I do it. Some of you guys may have bookmarks. The Globe Life website, that's too long for me to be able to give to a customer. So I just tell a customer when I've got them on the phone, I say, type in libnat.com, libnat.com, and that website link automatically changes into the Globe Life new updated page since we've rebranded. And at the top right, it says, actually, it says, hang on, that's agent services. Let me show you guys. It's a better visual. Here we go. Boom. Okay, so here is libnat.com. Again, it took me to globelifeinsurance.com. I click up here at the top right, customer login. Customer login is either going to be our policyholders, our individual policyholders, or if they're a worksite business, this is where they're going to click on worksite business owners, and it's going to pop up the login for a business owner. If you yourself as an agent, SAAD, are wanting your user to be able to look at all your accounts, then we're going to log into agent services. And then you have that option, which is on the PowerPoint right here that says Worksite Billing Login. And those credentials are going to be your Epic credentials. Okay. I have a lot of people that ask me, hey, can you send me this invoice? Hey, so-and-so didn't get it. Can you send it to me really quickly? I'm just preparing you guys because we are growing more and more, and we're closing more accounts. Like, for me to stop and send you an invoice that you already have accessibility to does slow down workflow. So I'm going to start getting you guys and asking, do you have access to do you have access to your Worksite Billing accounts. As an agent, it'll show you all of your accounts. As an SA, it'll show you all of yours and your team's accounts. As an AD, all of your team's accounts on there. The only time it will not give you access to invoices is if an account or an agent has been transferred or has been terminated, and that rolls up automatically to Brian Kennington. I can get that transferred back to you. I'll send you the invoices, no problem at all. However, if you have accessibility to it, guys, you can even do it on your phone. I have it bookmarked on my phone to where if I'm driving or doing something, you ask me for it because you can't get access and I'm not in front of my computer, I can pull it up straight from my phone. So I just want you to know that you also have that accessibility just like I do. Okay. And so the online billing system is really good for computer savvy bookkeepers or business owners that travel a lot. Oh man, I promise you, like people that run into more questions or challenges with billing, that make cut checks, they lose checks in the mail. Like this is the number one reason why we should be pushing the majority of our accounts to online billing. About 80% of our accounts are. And the reason being is because when they make a payment today, it will show submitted within 24 to 48 hours. Checks won't get lost in the mail. It eliminates the delay from payments posting before the next invoice generates. It's very, very user friendly, and accessing invoices and payment history they have access to that at any given time with online billing. The only thing with Worksite Billing right now, is that they cannot pay on their phones. That's the only downfall. And so that is definitely on the roadmap for programmers to be able to do, because the old online billing system, they were able to pay from their phones. And so that is on the roadmap, but that is just one disadvantage to the current system. Okay. When we are trying to get our customers to register for the online system, there's two ways we can do it. We can call the 888 number, the worksite number for my new agents or SAs. If you don't have this number, go ahead and take a screenshot and put it in your phone. Put worksite customer service, but this is the number. You dial 1 for the verification. If you submitted 125 paperwork and need to get that verification call done for a franchise to be able to enroll, that's number 1. Number 2 is if you have any other questions or service within an account, trying to get them registered for online billing, that's also the fastest way of doing it. That's faster than even sending me an email to then get sending me an email for me then to forward to home office for them to sit in their inbox maybe 24 hours before they respond saying that they sent a registration link. So calling is always the fastest way to get somebody registered. Okay. Let's see here. And the link, I just got this question asked yesterday. I want everybody to write this down. So they're going to get a link when they're requesting to register from online, and that email that they get the link from is lnbilling@globe.life. lnbilling@globe.life, and that's where they're going to get their registration email from, is this email address. Okay, let me stop right here for a second, kind of scroll down, and I'm going to kind of hop in and give you guys, oh, shoot. Hang on, let me stop sharing. Bear with me for 1 second, please. I got to get back in. And another thing about the online system, guys, is it logs you off every, I would say 10, 15 minutes. So, okay, let me get back in now, share my screen. Can I get a thumbs up if you guys can see my screen okay now? Perfect. Awesome. All right. Online billing. So I have logged into an account as if I were the customer, as if I were an account, Crosby Timber. If I'm the bookkeeper, this is my account. This is what it looks like from the customer's perspective on online billing, which I wanted to go over this because nobody has access to this. And a lot of times when we get bookkeepers calling in, we don't have the visibility to see what the customers are seeing. And so here we are. Here I am showing you guys what it looks like from the customer's view. So we can click on this account number. Side note, if we do have some accounts that have 2 or 3 locations. And so whenever we do have 2 or 3 locations, they want to have one online billing user. All we have to do is get one account registered for online billing. Once they are registered, all we need to do is call into Worksite, or you can send me an email and say, hey, Angela, can you please add these two other franchise numbers to this main franchise number online billing. And what happens is when they merge those franchise numbers, when the customer logs in, they'll have access to see this account number and the other two locations, and they just select which account they want to review and reconcile. And if it's a completely different, like Biz LLC, they have the capability of having it merged. They can click on, let's say it's Crosby Timber, and the Crosby Timber has a bank account. For that bank account, we can click on and save it to Crosby Timber. And let's say there's Crosby Trucking. We can then click on Crosby Trucking account and save the checking account number for that business in that specific franchise number. So you can use different business accounts for different franchise numbers that are in one online billing system or one online billing user. I hope that makes sense. So I'm clicking on this account number in Voice Home right here, and it gives me 4 different options when I log in. It gives me reconcile and pay. This is where the customer will click on to pay their invoices. If I want to look at an invoice history right here, account information. This is, and I'm going to click on each one of these, account information and then users and roles. Let's see here. So these first 4, obviously on the top right triple bar, I also sometimes will walk them through this, the same exact options, but there's just a triple bar for you to be able to access. But let's look at what reconcile and pay looks like. All right, so just at looking at this account, I could see the account information's right here. The account currently is paid to May 1st. Their frequency is they get paid weekly in their billing cycle. Whenever it says month dash a day, that means that they're on a 4-4-5 billing, and the day that it closes out on payroll is going to be on Friday. And here is where we can determine whether or not the bill type, whether or not it's on printed, web, or no print. And for the agency view on online billing, it gives us the same exact view for company details. And this is how we can determine if they say, I haven't gotten an invoice, I want to be able to, I'm going to pull up my online billing as a supervisor or an agent. And I'm going to see and pull up the account information and see, okay, are they on web bill? Because if they're on web billing, then that makes sense why they're not getting invoices. Okay. And so going back to the customer's view, I'm in here. I see that this amount is $473.32 for the May invoice. Okay, I'm scrolling down and I could see here, just kind of looking at this from left to right, we've got policy number, policy type, description, employee ID, we don't really use, name. This is the name of the employee and the insured. And as you can even see here where it says the very first employee, Ronald Anglin, you can see that this employee has 3 policies and it goes down here to the next Colton Crosby. Okay, so they can kind of collapse and see like, okay, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 employees here that are on this invoice. And you could see the totals for all their policies. All right, but let me just reopen that. So Ronald's got 3 policies. Their premiums, policy due date. Here's a big thing that I get. Well, why does the invoice say that they're due for May 1st, but the policies show that they're due for April 1st of 2024? Well, remember guys, the invoices generate on the 22nd of every month. So if they have not paid their April invoice until after the 22nd of April, then May is going to generate showing each individual policy still owing for April. Okay, so always look and see when was the last time they made their payment. If it was before the 22nd, then those paid due dates should be accurate. If it's after the 22nd, that explains why the invoices, why the pay due date on the invoices are 1 month behind when really they owe for just May only. Then we have premiums are deducted per pay period. the total that's owed on this invoice, a section 125, whether or not these policies are keyed at home office, whether they're pre or post tax, premium adjustment reason, adjustment amount. And so here's where if a bookkeeper calls and says, hey, Ronald left us, he was terminated at the end of March. How do I remove him from the invoice? I just want you guys to know that it does take longer for you to send me an email and for me to get an invoice regenerated. That takes about 2 to 3 business days versus you showing and teaching a bookkeeper how to do it themselves. So all I would say is okay, are you logged in your online billing system? Okay, great. Go ahead and pull it up. And at the last 4 columns on the online billing system for Ronald, there should be a column that says premium adjustment reason. Just click on the drop down and it gives you all these options: retired, terminated, deceased. You can click on any one of those. When I click on it, it gives them a reminder, our policies are portable, coverage can be continued by a direct bill. I click OK, and what it does is it automatically adjusts the premium amount to 0. So bookkeepers don't have to manually enter in anything. Okay, you can see it's in parentheses. So now it's automatically deducted the total $473.32 minus this one policy that I just removed. Okay, and so it automatically does that for them. And then they would scroll down to the very bottom and save and continue, and it takes them through one. So they got to hit it once, hit it twice. The third time is where they hit submit, and that's where they actually submit the payment. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Okay, so that was reconcile and pay. Invoice history. When I click on invoice history, it gives me the option. I can see that this account, and here's my hypothesis about why the policies were paid to April. They paid their April invoice on April 23rd, which was one day after the May invoice generated. Okay. This can also mean that sometimes they make adjustments on their invoice and they remove policies. Well, they're like, well, why am I having a hard time removing employees off of this invoice? Well, Mrs. Bookkeeper, because you paid the invoice after the 22nd, the May invoice already generated. So you're just going to have to remove them again on the May invoice, and make sure you do that before the 22nd of May, because it'll show up on June's invoice again also. And you just don't want to continue to run into that problem. Over here on this far right, we can see that everything's paid. 5/1 is due. I have 3 different views that I can do. I just showed you the blue link where it says view invoice. The next one is downloading it in Excel or downloading it as a PDF. And just so you guys have that visibility, here's the PDF screen of what those invoices will look like that you send. And I always send the customers this unless I'm making an adjustment on their invoice, or I have home office make an adjustment. When I have home office make an adjustment to their invoice, this is what the invoice looks like. Okay. And this is where I get, whenever a customer calls me and says, or it's usually supervisors that say, hey, so-and-so wants to know why their invoice went from $450 to $591. Right. So we want to be able to determine, here's the amount that is deducted per week on this account, $118.33. Well, $118.33 times 4. So if I go like this times 4, it's $473.32. Well, the reason why it's now showing $591.65, I guarantee you that the invoice is reflecting 5 weeks. So that's the reason why their invoice increases now, or has increased. To be 100% certain before you go telling a bookkeeper that's what it is, you want to always double check the invoice. Always double check. And so in this scenario, this is accurate. It is based off of a 5-week billing. Okay. And so that is what the invoice history looks like. Account information, when I click on update account, it's going to give me account info. That's address, contact information, telephone number. I can update that here. This is the one that's used the most. I always recommend when people register for online billing, this is the very first and foremost thing that they do, and that's change payment information. If you don't save the payment information first, then what happens is every single time they go to reconcile an invoice, they're going to have to add the banking information every time. And then it does give them an option to save at the end, but I know sometimes customers say, oh, well, it never saved, or it's saved wrong. And when you do it in this way, through this third option on the online billing system, it actually saves, and it'll tell you, it'll verify like this routing number has matched the second one. And then it'll even populate the name of the bank once you input the routing number. And so that's always for me is getting them to register first, add their routing number and account number, and then going through and reconciling the invoice. Lastly is users and roles. So users and roles, this is the only user right now registered. There are 4 different types of users, and I want you guys to see this. So administrator and owner have the same capabilities. It's just basically distinguishing the decision maker versus the bookkeeper. They can adjust invoices, they can reconcile invoices, they can submit invoices and submit payment. Both have the same roles. Invoice adjuster just means that they can only adjust what's on the invoice. They can remove employees. They can maybe make some premium adjustments on there, but they cannot pay the premium. Okay. Payment remitter is the exact opposite. They can make the payment on the invoice, but they cannot make any adjustments on the invoice. And so those are the 2 roles when bookkeepers are like, hey, I've got somebody helping me that's going to be helping me remit the invoices. Can I get them added on? They can actually manually go in here and do it themselves. And then it will go ahead and send a registration link over to that new user, and they can get registered with their own email address and password through the system. Okay. So that really is the visibility of what that looks like. And for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of run through really quickly just the last things on that's online billing. And this now, as we switch, this is the second option, which is print billing. And this is our customers paying in the form of a check. When you do have your people that only want to deal with checks and making payments with a check, whenever they get the invoice, and these are important conversations to have with our new cases, guys, is just kind of walking them through what it should look like to prevent from any issues or any challenges that they may have with our home office when it comes to paying in the form of a check. So there's a perforated line on the invoice that they get. They should always be cutting that slip and putting it on the check when they mail it. So that way our home office knows, okay, this is the account number. This check goes to this account number. We have three is more than I would want to deal with, but we have 3 right now in the last month of accounts that are using e-bill, online billing, or it's not online billing, excuse me. It's like e-bill through their bank. So what they do is they send the invoice to their bank, and the bank generates the check and then sends it to Liberty National. Those take over a month, sometimes a month to 2 months to be received, simply because franchise numbers are not being printed on those e-checks. It takes a couple of, sometimes 5 to 7 days for the bank to even issue the check, approve the request, and issue a check. And so there have been several issues, and I just want you guys to know those e-bills, that's the reason why, is because we're not actually following the check system of tearing it off. This is the account that this check goes to, and mailing it in. When they do have this printed invoice, if they want to remove somebody on the invoice, all they have to do is draw a line through their name and put a P on the far right column for permanent removal. It also gives you the option to put a T. T is for temporary removal. P permanent, T for temporary. Okay, when they make adjustments on the invoice, they need to send the entire invoice with the check, so our accounting department knows how to make adjustments, because that total is not going to match what's on the check. And so home office clerks need to be able to know how to make those adjustments. Okay, let's see here. Where to send payments. Everybody get your phone out, take a picture. This is priority mail. Top is the address of where a check should go. And guys, hear me on this. This is only worksite account checks. This is not individual reinstatement checks or conservation checks. This is only worksite account checks. Priority mail, if we're getting something and it needs to be overnighted, it has to be the priority address, or else it will not go to the PO box. And we've had checks get returned, accounts lapse, have to go through reinstatement because we overnighted or priority mailed something to the PO box and they did not get it. Okay. So those are the addresses. Lastly, billing challenges. So I've already discussed a couple of these, but let me just kind of recap for us. They didn't get a paper bill. Again, just if they didn't get a paper bill, first foremost, I always double check the online system to see if they're on web or no print. And then from there, I can pull the invoice online, which I just showed you. It gives me an Excel format or a PDF format. I go ahead and download it. And like I did in the screen right here, download it and email it over to them. Sent a payment, but received a final notice in the letter. Excuse me, received a final notice letter. And so in this perfect example that I just gave you with Crosby Timber paying on April 23rd, what's going to happen is when the May invoice generates, it's going to show that the account still hasn't paid for April. So when on April 22nd, that account is going to get April's invoice and May's invoice saying final notice because payment hadn't been received by the 22nd. So I always tell customers, well, Mrs. Bookkeeper, did you mail off the April invoice or the check? Yeah, I sure did. I mailed it off on the 15th. Okay, what's that? Let's everybody write this down. What's the check number, amount, and date that was mailed? And then just say, okay, awesome. So what probably happened, Mrs. Bookkeeper, is that you mailed off the check and we sent an invoice and those just cross pass in snail mail. And so you can just disregard that final notice letter. I'll take this check information, check number, amount, and date, and I'll send it to my quality manager and see if we can track that check in the inventory, okay, at our accounting department. And so just disregard it for right now. I'll definitely get with you if we have not received it, or if we have any other issues, or I'll let you know if we've got it and we got it applied. Okay. Okay. The third question or challenge you may get, employees are not coming off the invoice. That's simply, again, the number one reason, most common reason is because people are paying their invoices late, or they may cut pay with a check and we're just getting the checks later after the 26th. And so if that does happen, I just always let them know, what are the names of those employees? Okay, great. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll send an email to our home office just to get them removed off so that any future invoices, they'll be completely removed off. But on this one that you have right now in front of you, go ahead and remove them off manually, or on the online billing system, go ahead and remove it off on the online billing system. I just showed you guys how to do that. And you'll remove them off that invoice, and then we'll manually make sure that it comes off on any future invoices so you don't have to deal with that issue anymore. Okay. Next question is deductions are not matching the invoice. So this is where I get this question and people send it to me right away. And I'm like, I can't do anything until you guys get me either a deduction register. So that's you guys telling the Mrs. Bookkeeper, in order for me to be able to decipher what the discrepancy is, I need, can you please print out a payroll deduction register for the payroll that you ran? Remember, deductions start 1 month to reflect the next month's invoice. So if she's having a problem with the April invoice, Mrs. Bookkeeper, can you send me your deduction register for all of March so I can compare it to the April invoice and see where the discrepancy is? And all bookkeepers have the capability of running that payroll deduction register for an entire month. And what that does is it shows us how much by the penny was pulled from each employee's paycheck. And then we compare it to the invoice, and then we can decide, where the discrepancy is. Do we need to fix the deductions in her payroll, or do we need to make an adjustment on the invoice? And that's how we can kind of nail down the solution there. The next is check pending requirements to see if a policy hasn't issued. So this is the report that Destiny sends out every Wednesday to you guys. It should be going to ADs, at supervisors, and any renewal year agents. And those pending requirements, if something is in underwriting and it hasn't issued, then it's not going to show on an invoice. So that's the first place you want to check, is pending requirements, to see if a policy has issued. And then the last thing that I get most common is online billing won't let me submit the payments. I always say, are you paying from your phone? It's always yes. I just say, I'm sorry, the system does not let us pay from the phone right now. It is on the roadmap to be allow customers to do that, but you do have to pay your invoice through the desktop. Okay. And so that really kind of just recaps the challenges, questions, the majority of those that we get, guys. I promise you, it always can be fixed. We always can get it adjusted. It does take, don't ever promise a customer or bookkeeper, we'll get it fixed immediately. I'll send something back to you tomorrow. I always say, because we are dealing with a multi-billion-dollar company, and there are thousands, and I don't even know more than accounts. We have 2,500, but we're just one agency. So I always say it'll take about 2 to 3 business days to get it corrected, and we'll get it sent back to you then. And I'll follow up with a phone call to make sure you've gotten everything situated okay. So I always want to give it 2 to 3 business days before we can get anything resolved. Okay. I hope that concludes everything and helps you guys understand the billing system a lot better. I'm going to just stop really quickly for any questions you guys may have. If you don't, this is being recorded, and I will send the recording out to you guys as we conclude the Zoom. What questions do you guys have for me? Oh, we got a guest getting ready to ask a question.
Hey, Angelo. So Agent Johnson has a question.
So I actually have a question. I'm not sure who needs to answer it. But do these trainings, do they count towards continuing education pertaining to the renewal requirements for licenses?
No, unfortunately, it does not. This is more for your knowledge in the sales field, out there servicing accounts, but it does not.
Thank you,
Okay.
Angela. I have a question. So when
Yes.
the DM says my payroll person is not going to add any more deductions, what would that be a rebuttal for that?
They're not going to add any more deductions?
Right. If they don't want to do deductions and my payroll person doesn't want to add anything else, so we're going to pass on doing the benefits. What
re-enrollment.
could be?
Got it. I would always say, okay, what's her reasoning for not wanting to add? Or is she in the office so I can kind of see and get an understanding of where this is coming from? Just because we help in making this process seamless for you guys. And so I just kind of would want to understand the reason why. If she feels as if it's extra work for her, we have a lot of people, supervisors, that have the capability of like setting up that appointment and actually helping that account enter the deductions in for themselves. So Mrs. Bookkeeper, if this is extra work for you, all we got to do is I can schedule an appointment and do it for you, get them entered once we get it updated. And that's one time, one and done. And then all you got to do is just remit the invoice like you have been doing every single month. And so that would be my rebuttal to that. Good question. Any other questions?
All right. We're good in Augusta. Thank you, Angela.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Last call for questions. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. If there's anything else you guys need, feel free to give me a shout, and I hope y'all have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.